just on the 9th of this month, I woke up to find a flooded house. And one of the things that I thought about was that this is really not going to be a lot of fun. And I didn't know whether it was really something that I really wanted to talk about here at the County Country Advisory Committee. But anyway, I woke up and I got out of bed. I found the house flooded with over an inch of water, and it was every room in the whole house. And I said, how can that happen while I'm home? Because, you know, it happened between midnight and 6 in the morning. And that's all it took was 6 hours to silently fill the house full of water. And there was water everywhere. This is water at the one extreme end of the house, and carpets. It's really hard to take pictures of water on the floor, you know. But this is just one place where you walk on the carpet, it brings it up, and you can kind of see it. So right after it happened, I said, you know what, I'm not going to share this with anybody because it's my own personal problem, and I didn't particularly think you guys would give me any sympathy. And when I announced I was going to do it, you didn't. So I was, you know, I was right there. You haven't changed your mind, have you?
No, but it's educational.
No, I didn't think so. But until I realized just how disruptive it was going to be. It's probably one of the most disruptive things that I've ever had happen. And when I talked to some people, everybody I talked to, and I said, you know what? My house got flooded. And then I'd start hearing their stories. You know, well, okay, yeah, I had that happen, or my neighbor had that happen, or my parents had that happen. And I got to thinking, if this situation is so common, why isn't there a way I can protect myself from it? You know, why do I have to go through this whole process? So what I did at the initial time to start out this process, which they told me, and I'll say it again later, was only going to take between 4 to 6 weeks. Anybody want to bet on it? I immediately called my homeowner's insurance, which was the auto club, and I got to tell you what, I'm calling at 6:30 on Saturday morning, and they were very, very responsive. They immediately authorized their remediation group, American Craftsmen, to come out. And within 2 hours, the company was on site, and then people were starting to show up, and they were starting to take care of what was going to happen. They said, well, we can give you some alternate housing while this is going on. But, of course, it has to be way over on the other side of the valley because there is no places to rent here with a kitchen and so forth, and I declined. But anyway, the first thing that they told me to do was remove all high-value potential problem items to prevent further damage. What could I do? So here I am. I'm scrambling at anything that might have been on the floor. And in actuality, I did have one very, very expensive high value item. I have a 1959 Gibson 335 guitar that's perfect, and it still is. So I immediately went and grabbed that thing, opened the case, because the case got wet. You got to start drying everything out, make sure it doesn't warp it. And you're grabbing everything that might be in contact with the floor. That's anything that you want to try to save, furniture, electronics, whatever it happens to be, equipment to run the meeting, you know, we had to go and get right away. And so it was an interesting day. So if you want to talk about stress, the first thing that they do is they come on in and they bring in 10,000 fans, big fans, units to remove humidity, remove all the baseboards from your house, start tearing things, drill holes in the bottom of your kitchen cabinets, do everything they can, and then they say, we're going to go remove all the contents out of your house. So grab whatever you need for the next 6 weeks. And you get to do that as they're pulling stuff out. It's just all going, right? Pretty soon, I thought it was kind of comical because on the next day, some guys come up and say, where's the piano? And I look at them, who are you? Right? Oh, we're from we've been hired by American Craftsmen. We're the piano specialists. And we're going to go grab your piano and dry it out, make sure it didn't get damaged, you know, and off they go, you know, so sure, go ahead. You know, everybody's taking everything else so far. Be my guest, have that too, you know. So there it goes. It's almost worse than if the whole house would have burned down. If the whole house would have burned down, you would have said, okay, I don't have anything, I'll just go buy what I need. But now you don't because you have it, but you really don't because it's in storage, and you never know when you're going to get it back. But we'll check about that later. Next, after that not bad enough, now the insurance company wants to send out specialists. One specialist is going to come out and check to make sure that there aren't any other leaks. And then the mold and asbestos guys show up. And they go, and I thought it was very interesting because not only were they looking for mold based upon water damage, they were looking for areas of potential water damage that may have asbestos in the tape joints on the walls. So they go and identify those kind of things. And so ended my first week in paradise of trying to get all this repaired. There's the emergency drying process. Didn't come out really well, but there's the big dehumidifiers and the blue dryers. And week 2 now starts. This is where I am today. I'm in week 2. First, the mold and asbestos removal guys show up. And of course, that's just not something that anybody can do. These guys got to come out with their and put their little bunny suits on and tape off the house and the areas of potential damage now have zippers on bags, where they can get in and out. And they go through and remove what mold and asbestos they believe is there, do some HEPA sanding of some of the wood, and then tomorrow I get the Environmental Protection Agency out to do an inspection to make sure that they've done their whole job. After that, I'm not sure what happens. We'll have to wait and find out what happens next, how long this process is going to take. But I guarantee you one thing, it just ate my whole summer. I was supposed to leave next week on a trip. I canceled it. I was supposed to go to Hawaii next month. I canceled it because this is all going to happen in the next 2 or 3 months. Now, if I haven't convinced you yet that you ought to do something to make sure this doesn't happen to you, well, we'll keep on going just a little bit longer. So one thing I said, my younger son is a contractor, and I said, is there anything I could have done to keep this from happening? Some people told me, well, my problem was that a valve inside the washing machine broke. And I had some people tell me, well, you know what, we always make sure to turn our washing machine off at the wall when we leave the house. Well, that's fine as long as it's not your dishwasher that broke, right? Because there is no place to turn that one off at the wall, or your some of the stories I've heard, the biggest offender is the toilet broke, okay, or one of those kinds of things. So I said to him, you know what, I'm wondering if there's a system out there, I never heard of it, I wonder if there's a system out there that could prevent this from happening, and if there isn't, maybe this is a good opportunity to go do something. So I started out doing some research. I said, I'm going to go try to find out how much a system like that would cost and how hard are they to install. Now, I want to preface this discussion by saying this is not an advertisement or an endorsement for any flood control vendor or system. You will not be high-pressured sales on the way out the door. Okay? What this is just my intent is to provide you with information so that by the time this is over, if you feel that it's of value to you to take some action on your own, then okay, you can do it, and I will feel better if I have prevented one of you from going through what I'm going through right now. So, as I went through, so far, I've only found one integrated system. I found parts of systems. My alarm guy told me, I have an ITI alarm system. He said, we can get some RTI water sensors, and then we can go to some other company and get a shutoff valve. And I just heard today that there are some water sensors and water alarms up at Lowe's I'm going to go look at. But so far, I've only found one system that is integrated from the manufacturer. And I'm going to do more research. I haven't decided which one I'm going to get yet. Like I said, this is not an endorsement of any particular brand or thing. But the whole idea is that this particular system has a valve that you install in your water inlet. Could probably install it right after your regulator or right before your regulator. And the bigger box is the controller for that valve. The 4 smaller boxes come with this system they're wireless, and the little things on the bottom are water sensors that go to the wireless transmitters. You can add additional water sensors to each wireless controller, or you can actually add some wired sensors to the main controller. And as I read about it, it says that you can actually have 31 separate sensors if you want to. And I'm planning on how I would do it in my house by putting them underneath an area where the washer might leak, or the dishwasher might leak, or the sink might leak, or the toilet might leak, or the ice maker might leak, right? But I've got a little advantage in my little North Oaks house because I have a plumb wall. Everything's on that one plumb wall, and it makes it easier to go do this. So I'm definitely going to install some system. This particular system, as you see it up there, is around $400. It operates battery operated, which I'm not going to do, or it operates off of AC. And so far, it's the most integrated and seems like the most logical thing to use for my application. But I'm keeping looking. I'm going to spend another week doing more research. So again, this is not an advertisement or endorsement of any product, that product or any other one, because I'm not that familiar. It's my intent to provide you with information, hopefully, if you feel it's of value. By the way, that company also makes systems for individual appliances. So they do make like a washing machine system where you put a water sensor below your washing machine, and if in fact it leaks, it shuts the water off at the valve. Or you can do the same thing with any other product. But if you do it product by product, it gets much more expensive because each one of those are about $120 to $150. I hope by next month I'll be able to provide you the final chapter in this saga, but I'm not betting on it. And the reason why I'm not betting on it is because that's the way I left my house today. Actually, they had just been taking that down. That is the first little area is where they go in, and then there's a shower for where they come out, and then there's another little thing where they blow air over it. So it's a very intrusive, very disruptive item. But I hope it doesn't happen to you. Any questions? Yes.
I find that interesting. My house flooded 30 years ago. I have on Nadale the kitchen in the front, and there's a flaw with the hot water thing. I found about a half dozen other people whose had also flooded. We had nothing with the EPA. We had nothing with asbestos. Our house isn't that much younger than yours is, but look how far things like that have come along where they're all interested in stuff like that. But the particle board in my kitchen just sucked up all that water, and I got this brand new remodeled kitchen.
Well, I'm glad. I'm sure that my wife is going to get a whole bunch of remodel stuff that she just hasn't told me about yet. Yeah. But
well, that was part of the insurance deal. I had to get a new kitchen, so we remodeled it.
Well, it's interesting to say that because 10 years ago, my mother was ready to move into Friendly Valley. And the house had been completed. We had remodeled the whole thing. It had just been carpeted. Everything was ready to go. They were supposed to move in 2 days later. And what are the chances of the toilet valve sticking and the toilet valve clogging at the same time? They opened the door to get washed away with water. And just 10 years ago, when that happened, what did the guys do? A ServPro came out. What did they do? They took off the baseboards, they punched holes in the wall, they put in their dryers, and when it was all dry, they left. And then what we did, and they dried the carpet and reinstalled it, and we reinstalled the baseboards. But the amount of regulation in the last 10 years has grown dramatically. Not only in this type of situation, but just like in the remodel that I did on my brother's house last year, in dealing with permits and so forth, the amount of regulation is dramatically increased. So you're right. We have a lot of interested individuals now. That's true.
Was everything they put in storage dry?
Excuse me?
Everything that you put in storage, was it dry?
No. What happens with the, let me qualify that. Everything that was moved was not dry when it left the house. It's part of this company's process that all of the furniture is moved to their facility, and then it is dried, and it is determined whether or not it can be restored or whether it is declared a total loss. And after it's dried, then it's stored at their facility. So it's not just moved straight to a storage facility. It goes through American Craftsman process of remediating whatever problems there are. I'll probably start to find out next week just how much of the stuff they believe is reparable and how much of the stuff they think is a loss.
Okay, that's great. Well, I'm a real estate broker, okay? So I have seen probably about 20 or 30 of these. And the worst one was my neighbor down the street. Hers was a dishwasher, but it carried so much water that it went up the stairs into her second story. Yeah, she was on vacation.
If that would have happened in my house, I would have drowned.
Yeah, so anybody with a two-story home, it can happen to you up there. Now, were all of your washer, dryer, everything inside or in the garage?
It was inside.
Inside.
But yeah, I'll let you know when I get remodeled. I know I'm getting new floors because the old ones are no longer attached to the concrete. I'll try to.
I have another question for Heloise.
Yeah, well, don't worry about it. I'm doing good today.
Was your washer new, or how old was the washer?
It was about 10 years old.
Okay.
It was interesting because the insurance company said, well, if it was new, then they would expect it to be repaired on a warranty. If it was older, they would repair it. And we said, that's fine. We'll throw it away.
It might be worth your while. I checked with the local water company. My pressure was bad.
Oh, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. But the water specialist, the leak specialist that was out, yeah, he told me that too. And so actually he told me that they measured it and that they recommended a new regulator because the water pressure inside the house was 80 pounds. And they said it was too high.
Because I checked with the water company, and I called and asked them what the pressure was supposed to be.
What did they say?
They wanted to know where I lived. So I told them I could not get an answer.
That's it. I don't blame you.
So usually I bought a gauge and I checked with an outside faucet, which comes in the house. I set it between 48 and 58 pounds.
Really?
To get the pressure. But at times I have checked it and it has been up to 70 pounds. Because they vary when people are using water. But they will not give you a direct answer.
Well,
supposed to be.
Yeah, the person that came out to my house who was supposed to be the leak specialist, maybe that's why he did this. It might create leaks. He told me that they told us that the that my regulator was regulating at 80 pounds, and I should replace it. It should have been only regulating at 70 pounds. But I think that's too high as well, so I agree with you. Anybody else?
Yeah, well, I just was going to answer his questions. The reason they can't tell you is if you're in an area that's like they have to pump the water up to the top of the hill, and you're at the bottom, you might have really high pressure outside because they need to put a lot of pressure to put the water up on the hill.
Lynn, yes. Actually, when I moved into that house, all the water that we received came from those tanks above us. I actually knew the guy that used to turn the pumps on and off. And in those days, we only had 70 pounds of line pressure. And so if you look at my sprinkler system, which was installed many years ago, it has 12 stations because of the low water pressure we have. But now the pressure is up much higher. So I would think that they're pumping it in as well. Anybody else? Now, don't I get any sympathy at all? Oh.